So good morning, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and, like every other morning, I'm going to mute everybody. Just start out with, and so if you have questions, please ask those questions either in the chat or you can raise your hand. So either way is perfectly fine. I think probably Ida will continue to monitor the chat, and in there we'll and I think Paula is monitoring the list so we can see hands raised, and so they'll happily interrupt me if they need to. So this morning we're gonna go. I've been working on a document and it is a bit obnoxiously long. But so what I've been trying to do is I have most combinations that are available, actually most combinations that are available within the handbook, kind of basically by line, and then I am trying to go through and identify where those might match up in one of the categories that we have for allowable spending under the ESSER funds. So that has made the document fairly long, and you'll notice that there's a bunch of places where I haven't noted anything yet. That doesn't mean it's not an allowable. It just means that I haven't identified anything yet, and so I am certainly, I think so. As we kind of go through this, I'll go through what I've done so far, and then we can talk about if you guys have any thoughts on additional ones, then that's fine. So what I'll do is I'll just highlight those ones, and then, and then we can pass it around internally within the department to kind of see what other people, some of the program people think as well. And we might do a little bit more of it tomorrow, because I know sometimes more program people come on Tuesday and Thursday because that's what we asked them to do. So let me share my screen and show you what I've been working on. So let me actually zoom it. Okay. Oh, I like it better. Anybody have a preference on how this shows up? Is this okay? Everybody's on mute. So
yes, it works.
Okay. All right. So what I've done is I've gone through, and so on this first page we can see all the different available categories under the ESSER funding. So starting with adult ed, elementary and secondary, Education Act, IDA, Perkins, McKinney-Vento, and then of course the other categories that were outlined in the CARES Act. So I've given each of them a numerical number, or a Roman numeral. I've assigned them each a Roman numeral, and then what I'm trying to do is go through and actually say, I believe that this will match up with this other, with this line. So as you can kind of see, so right here, and so like for the ESEA, I went through the guidance that's actually on the ESEA's team, and so on there was noted, of course, that you can hire tutors for struggling students. So I've noted those as an allowable activity under ESEA, and then we can see down here that number 11. So number 11 is purchasing educational technology. So we might see student laptops in one of these that has an 11. So things of that nature, we could certainly code within there. And then and I have broken it out for, I'll show you in a minute, or I'll show you just a second. So this is elementary. And then I've broken out 1120 and 1121, which is our K-2 and pre-K. So one of the reasons why I've done that is within ESEA, it actually notes you can hiring additional staff to lower the student to staff ratio. And that's a very similar activity. Those are allowable activities under 1120 and 1121. So I did note those in, I separated them out in here, but that might also give us good cause for noting it on the 1100 and 1200. But that's one of those things I would certainly take a suggestion, and then we can, we can talk about it again tomorrow, and I'll pass it around. Anything that we kind of update. Some of them are much easier. So for instance, it says the IDA Act, so that allows me, I've marked off basically everything under the special ed, and then CTE is pretty similar, where we have the Perkins. So I've broken everything out. So I do want to kind of note here, within CTE, I've combined all these different function codes, and the reason for that is because, at least in here, because and this is, I've also provided this to Donna and over to that manages the Perkins Fund to make sure that these are all allowable activities under the Perkins Fund. So I'm not going to actually email out the document to everybody yet, because I don't, this is kind of a bit of a work in progress. I've made pretty good headway on it, but where nothing is quite set in stone, I don't want to share it quite yet. So, but again, any place where I needed to look at one individually, I've broken it out so we can see the ELL. And so within the ESEA Act, of course, we have the ELL activities, but it does say that you can't hire EL teachers, but you can spend money to support those teachers in different ways. And so I've tried to note those different ways you could support those teachers. I haven't marked anything in like alternative ed at this point. That's only because I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure if those are allowable activities. And so we do have a couple of questions I'm gonna, question of when do we think we'll be able to access the spreadsheet? So I actually been working on it over the past couple of weeks, and then put a lot of effort into it this past weekend. And so I think, so first we need to have all the activities, or as many as possible, annotated, and make sure I haven't inadvertently annotated something that doesn't need to be. So I did just email this out to the department staff this morning so they could have a copy of it. And once we've had more of a chance to go through it, other people within the department, and we get, I guess, between Chelsea and I, making sure that we've noted everything that we can at this point in time, then we can put it out. So I think, the hope is that we're going to have this put out prior to, a couple of days, at least a couple of days in advance of you actually filling in your application, so that you can kind of see it before then. So Marcia is asking, I'm assuming these are the codes we use within the new fund for our CARES money, 2605. Yeah, so this is, I'm trying to make sure everything is as clear as possible as to what are allowable expenditures under the CARES Act funding. So I'm just trying to remove as much ambiguity as possible. And then Anita's asking, there was a draft of the application questions that was sent out a few weeks ago. can we expect the narrative part of the application to remain the same? What is the anticipated timeline? So I don't exactly know what the anticipated timeline is at this point, Anita. And I don't believe the draft of the questions on as far as the activities is going to change. So, and at least within the budget page, that's pretty well set. But this is the backup documentation to help you, to help program managers, especially, kind of determine where, to work with their business managers on how to code things.
Tyler, there was a related question earlier than that from
Oh,
Dawn,
okay.
asking if the application itself is that specific or is it more general?
Oh, okay. So do you need to have all this detail in the application? And the answer is no. So when we look at the application, it actually will, there will be, if you look at it in more broad categories, so there'll be a category for regular instruction, there'll be a category for special ed, a category for CTE, a category for non-regular programs, so that's these 4,000 codes, and then a category for program 6,000, I think, for adult ed, and then program 8,000 for community services. So and there might be a couple of others in there as well. So the actual application, as you're trying to fill in the budget, will be much less detailed than this, but this is to help ensure that as you're looking at the activities that were on page 1, that you're looking at to assigning them to the correct category.
So, Tyler, is that also, this is Dawn, by the way. So does that also mean for money we've spent on food? Is there a special category?
Yep, so I can, let's see. So I do know it's towards the bottom. So food, at this point in time, part of what we've said in our initial guidance, because we got a question around hiring or paying for food service people. Mm-hmm. And so our guidance was that it does seem that given the broadness of the last category that was in the CARES Act, that you would be able to do, pay for people and for food that's not, that's above the reimbursement. So I've put those people within that last category.
Okay.
So we do have, and then again, there's community service type activities. And so I haven't broken these out under individual categories at this point. That doesn't, depending on how things are looked at, that may occur where we end up breaking these out. So actually what I think I'll do, if we having some other people here. So one of the things that I certainly was having difficulty as I was looking at this was the activity number 7, providing principals and other school leaders with the resources necessary to address the needs of their individual schools. So I'm wondering what, as from a school district perspective, how you think that, how principals might help address the needs of their schools. And I'm certain, and so I'm open for suggestions on that, from the field, and then, and then we can run those by the program people within the department, to make sure we, that they also believe that those are, are things that would be under that category. So does anybody have any suggestions on what that might look like?
Tyler, Kathy is saying, I don't see custodial salaries on the list. Is it there?
So what I've put, so yes, there is a place, and so what I think I'll do is let's go down.
It might be good to create a table of contents with hyperlinks to the broader section.
Yep.
And some page numbers.
Okay. So what I did do is I segregated this out, and I've done category 9, which is care and operation of the building, which is where we would generally code activities for cleaning your building. So if we go up and look at category 9, and this is where some of the difficulty comes in, is some of these are a little bit ambiguous in what they're saying, that the language that's in the law, and so then have to decipher how are those activities actually performed. So training and PD for staff on sanitation and minimizing the spread of infectious diseases, as well as purchasing supplies for sanitation and cleaning of facilities. So that's why I put it under specifically 2610, because that's where we would put the actual care and upkeep of the building. Okay, so I'm displaying the first page again for you, Diana. So you're also asking, is there an allowable category that will help our team plan for what will go in the application? So there is a number 10, planning for and coordinating during long-term closures, including how to provide. All right, so that might not have been.
Tyler, that was that was annotation to my request for the screenshot.
Oh, okay.
So I'm all set. I was able to grab a screenshot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, so Chandra is asking, could create a project for summer feeding if we do not have the summer school. Yep, and so I think, again, so I've put most of the summer or the food program under 14. There may be some justification under 10, but so this was partially in the hopes, of only assigning a single category to each line. I did put it under 14, which was a little bit more general in the sense of other activities that are necessary to maintain the operation of and continuity of services in the LEA. And so I think, Chandra, you could put that under category 14. So Don is asking, we're envisioning after school programs in the fall. And so there is an activity here for after school. And I do want to note, so that's a good one to actually look at. So we had a bunch of and actually this past year, schools looking at doing after school programming, some actual instructional programming, and and I think I just skipped over it. Let's see if I can find it. Nope. So to Ida's point, we will get some, a page so that you don't have to do all this scrolling. So actually, this last fall, because we had a number of school districts trying to do this, and there wasn't a good code for it. So if you're providing actual instructional programming before or after school, we had created a program 4600 for that. If what you're doing is providing childcare before or after school, and you're charging parents for that, and this is one of those where I don't have it noted yet. We do have custody and childcare services, which we could use for that. So I can add that as well. So Don, I think Ida, can you paste the link for the CARES Act page into the chat for Don's question, asking for the narrative questions? I believe those are actually, the narrative questions are right on, are a link within the CARES Act page.
Yeah, I've been trying to get to it. My internet was taking a while, but yes, I can post it up.
Okay. Remote learning this summer. I would love to have the narrative question too. Okay. If we buy supplies such as masks, etc., do we need to break it out by elementary and secondary, or can we just charge it to District 900? So I'm wondering where, I'm actually wondering where we might put masks, because they certainly are an allowable expense.
Tyler,
Yes.
I know that our nurses have asked for those. I don't know if that helps you in any way, but that's one area that we're already planning on that.
Yeah.
Guys.
And so I'm wondering, I mean, yeah, so I mean, it might fall within, certainly might fall within the health services, but, and, so generally speaking, when we think of, the student support that, which the nurse services would fall under, so that would certainly fall within there. But I'm also wondering about, what about when we're providing them to the staff? Take some notes. Oh, and so I'm getting a private message for the nurse's office, and so that may just be the simplest way to do that anyways. So I'm not around the question on where to code supplies that are going to be, would be distributed out to schools. Some of this will get determined by, so if we code something to the nurse's office, may not be an allowable combination to actually code all of those things to the nurse's office, but have it be at the 900. Some codes are only allowable at at the school level and at the and at the elementary secondary level. And my screen keeps flickering off. So Anne is noting we have not received student devices for remote learning. The commissioner said Friday that 100% need will be filled. Should we include devices for remote learning in our CARES request, or can we assume the state will cover those expenses? So that's actually, so actually thanks for bringing that up. I mean, so we got between some, I think, you know, it's a mixture of state dollars and private dollars. You know, we have funding to provide 100% of the need based on the questionnaires that were sent out. So your first step, if you're looking at devices, would be to contact either Paige Nichols in the commissioner's office, or Beth Lambert and on the learning systems team about devices. So that would certainly be your first step if you have device need. Okay, thanks, Anne. Okay, so I'm getting told contact Paige Nichols. Paige Nichols, if they submitted a questionnaire. And so, yeah, so if you submitted the questionnaire, if you replied to that questionnaire, then, and, you know, and you showed, you know, and you annotated need for your students, then you can reach out to Paige, and I know the department is working on getting those devices. And I'm just reading through some comments. Okay, so I think we're caught up on comments, and I think you were just looking at my email. So I think what I'll actually do, if people want to kind of think about this and send questions or comments about different categories, ones that I haven't noted yet on here is, I haven't marked anything off, is the coordination of COVID-19 preparedness efforts. So I'll highlight these just so people can. So I haven't marked anything off just because of time, but also I would certainly take some suggestions on that. And of course, as I noted, providing principals and other school leaders, I haven't marked anything off for that. I also haven't marked off for the disadvantaged. I know there's a ton of creative ways for the school districts and how they think about serving their disadvantaged students. And so certainly welcome to, taking suggestions, and you don't have to necessarily provide me the coding, but if you can tell me, oh, this is how we're thinking about serving our disadvantaged students, then I can look at that and mark coding off. I can develop the coding. But some of these, I don't know what the activities would be to be able to do that. So I think I've pretty well done the training and PD for staff on sanitation. So planning for and coordinating during the long-term closures, including how to provide meals to eligible students. So if we actually look within 2500, 2540, we actually have planning, research, development, and evaluation services. I've put it in there because that's the best place I could find for planning. I think it'll fit pretty well. There may be some other places. Again, if you know, if you think that I need to also add something else, certainly send that to me. So educational technology, I think I have that one pretty well covered in a sense. So we have within each of the instructional coding for being able to buy devices for the students. I've also marked off within, I think it's under, I have to remember where stuff is. I'm sorry as I scroll through. Sorry. So instructional related technology. So if you need hardware for your schools, if your technology personnel are doing some work around this, or possibly devices for teachers, if that fits within an allowable expense, can certainly all be coded there. So providing mental health services and support. So at this point, what I've noted on number 12 is social workers. If people feel that there's other things that also need to be included, please let me know, and then we can discuss those as well. And then planning and implementing activities, the summer learning and supplemental after school programs. So we went over that one within the program 4000s. We have one for summer school and we have one for the after school programming as well. And then another big one for which, there could be a varied responses is this other activities that are necessary to maintain the operation of and continuity of services in the LEA.
So Shirley's asking if could we put Mass for students and staff under section Roman numeral 6, which is your coordination of COVID-19 preparedness and response efforts.
So I think we can I will note it down and we can.
And Diana is asking, did you say earlier that adult ed is not allowable?
No, so adult ed is actually specifically mentioned Adult Ed and Family Literacy Act. So
Actually, that's alt ed, Tyler, because you said you weren't sure about alt ed.
Oh, so alt ed. So I haven't currently marked anything down, but I think to a point, that may be one of those ways when we talk about at-risk students, that could certainly be a way that you're serving those at-risk students. And it's just the fact that I was trying to be a little bit methodical in how I did it. And I didn't want to mark down a bunch of things that I wasn't 100% sure on at this point in time when I was doing this. So we can, that could certainly be something that maybe fits the alt ed, that may be a way that you're serving your underserved or disadvantaged students. And I see there was a message from, okay, so Kelly put in there questions regarding connectivity, email Beth Lambert or Paige Nichols directly, and she provided their emails. Oh, so Shirley, when you were asking before, so students definitely go under nursing. Oh, but so you're asking because then you don't have to necessarily do it at the school level. I mean, so one thing, let me make sure of how those restrictions work before we have you put it in different places. So Cheryl is asking, I'm new to schools. We purchased the transportation from an outside entity. Do we need to be cautious about maintenance of effort? I worry about not paying them the special ed transportation and sports events. We are only paying for the normal school day transportation, no extras. So certainly so first off, I want to note that, what's written within the CARES Act, and then of course the guidance from the governor stated, to continue paying your staff and pay your contractors as much as is practicable. But certainly when you're looking at the special ed transportation, whether that's out of district or in district, that that if you stop paying that certainly would affect your special ed maintenance of effort, both at the state level and for the federal IDA. And so you would certainly want to monitor whether that's going to have a negative impact on you. But again, what's in the CARES Act and what's put out by the governor is to continue paying contractors as much as is practicable. So Leah's asking about graduation expenses due to complying with COVID-19 guidelines. And so I hadn't marked it down at this point in time, but there is actually within the school administration and so this may be one of those things where, providing the support to school leaders, we can see within school administration, one of them is function 2490, other school administration, which includes graduation and accreditation costs. And so I had actually marked off, that's actually technology. But so I think that's certainly something that that I'll write down. So that would be number 7. So we'll mark that one down. So I don't necessarily need responses right now. I wanted to show you the document. I mean, so a lot of great comments so far today as to what are some possible opportunities. And so, over the next couple of days, and especially today, think about it, send them to me at this point, and then so as kind of, instead of, I think, sending it to, a bunch of different people on the department floor, filter them through me, and then we'll just, distribute them out as we need to. Some of them, if it's something that I'm like, oh yeah, I just didn't think about that one right off the bat as I was going through this, I may be able to add that really easily. If it's an activity that I'm not sure is an allowable activity, then I'll certainly pass that along to other people in the department to kind of help out. So I'm going to stop. Has everybody, I know one person took a screenshot, so if you'd like to do that, now would be a great opportunity. I could probably also email this first page out if people would like to see the first page, just to kind of have that. And then I'll continue working on kind of making this document better using like Ida's suggestion of having that table of contents and hyperlinking items. So I'm probably going to leave the hyperlinking items up to another staff member on my team who's particularly good at those types of things. But I can add a table of contents for them. So thank you, Terry. So yep. So as Don's saying, an email of page 1 would be great. So I will get that out to everybody. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And so any parting comments for today? Questions? Okay, so not seeing any hands raised or chat things, I'm going to stop recording.